Bathroom Breaks and Bedtime Tales presents The Arithmetic of Mercy by Sevastian Winters. I entered the hearing chamber just as the accused began to weep. He stood quietly before the counsel, shoulders trembling softly beneath the sharp clinical light, the small microphone picking up every careful intake of breath, every muted sob. On my tablet, his remorse score ticked steadily upward. 7.4, 7.9, 8.2, numbers glowing, reassuringly precise. I watched calmly from my station, waiting for the moment his display settled into stability. My colleagues murmured quietly around me, checking tablets of their own, nodding in polite approval at the numbers climbing higher. This was good. This was measurable. We were witnessing quantifiable regret. The accused spoke softly now, voice cracking slightly, a careful sincerity in every word. I understand what I did. Truly, I carry it every day. I see their faces every night. Please forgive me. His remorse surged again, stabilizing finally at 9.6, exceptional. More than enough for maximum clemency. I marked it down, professionally satisfied, already mentally preparing the recommendation. Mercy, full forgiveness by the arithmetic we'd carefully perfected. The counselors exchanged quiet glances, polite relief evident in their controlled expressions. Justice had become simple again, rational, clean. But as I entered the final data, I caught sight of the victim's family seated quietly in the front row. They stared blankly ahead, eyes dry and faces composed. But something had fractured beneath their controlled politeness, something my calculations had missed. The numbers on my screen dimmed, reassuring yet suddenly hollow. Mercy measured, forgiveness quantified. But grief, I realized, was immeasurable. Later that evening, alone in my office, I opened the next file, already recalibrating my mind toward the comfort of numbers. This one was different, more challenging, a higher-stakes evaluation. An elderly woman accused of causing a public catastrophe through negligence. It was an accident, not intentional harm, but catastrophic in consequence. 34 lives lost. I reviewed her remorse metrics slowly, methodically, feeling secure again in the reassuring mathematics of mercy. Her documented actions after the event had been impeccable: apologies, volunteer service, psychological evaluations. Her remorse was sincere, her scores flawless. But I couldn't shake the memory of the victim's family from the afternoon. I saw the quiet emptiness behind polite faces, the silent, lingering pain our careful arithmetic had erased from consideration. I set down my tablet, gazing thoughtfully into the quiet darkness beyond my desk lamp. We had built a system to spare ourselves cycles of vengeance, to quantify mercy, to rationalize forgiveness. Yet, I couldn't escape the quiet suspicion that our carefully measured mercy might erase something essential, something messy, irrational, human. I rose from my chair, restless. The numbers had always comforted me, guiding my decisions, relieving uncertainty. But tonight, for the first time, they left me unsettled, haunted by the gentle realization that some wounds could not be healed by calculation alone. In the morning, I visited her at the holding center, seeking answers that numbers couldn't provide. Margaret Shaw waited behind the reinforced glass, hands folded on the table, eyes clear and steady, but profoundly tired. "Your scores are exemplary, Margaret," I began softly, placing my tablet aside. "You've done everything right. Textbook remorse. Yet..." She watched me carefully, a quiet dignity in her expression. "Yet, something feels wrong." I hesitated, drawn by her calm perception. "I suppose," I admitted, "I'm struggling with the gap between calculated mercy and actual forgiveness. Numbers say you deserve clemency, but lives were lost. Families were shattered. How can we quantify what's irreparable?" She nodded, understanding. "We can't," she replied simply, voice gentle yet certain. "Your system is fair, precise, and polite. But forgiveness isn't about fairness. Sometimes justice and mercy collide, and neither is sufficient. Sometimes the only mercy we truly need is the kind that can't be measured." Her words settled around me, carrying a quiet, powerful truth that unsettled every rational assurance I'd held. I found myself nodding slowly, unable to reply, sensing for the first time the quiet tragedy behind the comfort of calculations. Returning to my office, I spent hours carefully reviewing the case again, recalculating, reconsidering thresholds. Each adjustment brought the same rational conclusion: Margaret's remorse warranted forgiveness, her rehabilitation efforts beyond reproach. Yet beneath the calm precision of my screen, I saw again the victims' families, the empty chairs at dinner tables, rooms that would forever hold quiet sorrow. My supervisor appeared at my door. "You're struggling?" she asked softly, her tone carefully professional yet concerned. "Yes," I admitted, voice low and raw. "Margaret meets every criterion, but her actions devastated lives. How can our calculations justify forgiveness when pain still lingers?" She stepped closer, voice gentle but firm. "Our protocol isn't designed to erase pain. It's designed to break cycles of vengeance. Forgiveness measured by remorse is rational, humane even. It's necessary." "But does rational forgiveness actually heal?" I asked. "Or does it diminish the humanity of suffering itself?" She considered carefully, eyes reflecting quiet empathy. "Our job isn't healing," she replied softly. "It's preventing harm. We measure remorse to spare society from endless retribution. But you're right. The system isn't perfect. It can't be." She left, her words gentle but hollow, leaving me to the uncomfortable clarity that the arithmetic of mercy offered no easy answers, only quiet, unsettling compromises. The morning of Margaret's final hearing arrived, the chamber filled with soft murmurs and subdued conversations punctuated by brief silences. I sat calmly at my station, the comforting glow of calculated mercy displayed reassuringly on my tablet screen, her remorse score steady at an impeccable 9.8. Nearly perfect. But I no longer trusted the quiet precision of those numbers. Margaret stood, composed and dignified. Her expression was gentle and calm, yet carrying an unspoken sorrow beyond metrics. Behind her, the victims' families watched in polite silence, grief etched into their expressions, their pain immeasurable, their forgiveness uncertain. The lead counselor addressed her. "Margaret Shaw, your remorse meets the highest criteria. By the established guidelines, full clemency is recommended. Is there anything you wish to say?" She looked toward the families behind her. Eyes soft, clear, deeply human. "I don't seek mercy from a calculation," she said softly, voice clear but fragile. "I seek it from those I've harmed. If forgiveness comes only from arithmetic, it isn't forgiveness." She pointed at the families sitting in the courtroom before continuing. "Without their forgiveness, I don't want yours. I'll serve my full sentence. Thank you very much." The chamber fell utterly silent, her words fracturing the careful rationality we had all depended on. Numbers no longer felt reassuring. They felt incomplete, even cruel, beneath the quiet weight of true humanity. The counselors exchanged uneasy glances, uncertain how to respond. The protocol had no guidelines for the refusal of mercy. And yet, we agreed it was her right to refuse. A simple glance into the faces of the victims' family members present said it all: cold, angry, without mercy. Every face registered the same hurt. Later, alone again at my desk, I sat staring at Margaret's final record, its glowing metrics now softly accusing, rather than comforting. She'd been granted clemency by arithmetic, refused it without hesitation. The families had left, their grief unchanged, mercy irrelevant to their loss. I leaned back slowly, understanding finally that our system had failed. Not in its intent, not in its fairness, but in its quiet belief that humanity could ever be reduced to measurement. We had tried to rationalize something inherently irrational, calm something inherently chaotic, tidy something inherently messy. We had quantified mercy at the expense of compassion. I closed Margaret's file softly, feeling a quiet ache settle deep within, a gentle, irreversible understanding that true mercy was costly, uncertain, immeasurable, and profoundly human. I returned to visit Margaret late that evening, no longer carrying my tablet, no longer protected by the comforting arithmetic of mercy. She sat across from me, carefully quiet recognition in her eyes. Not surprise, only gentle understanding. "I'm sorry," I began softly, voice trembling slightly. "I need to understand why." She watched me carefully, inviting me in without words, guiding me toward a small table near the window. Outside, echoes of streetlights cast quiet patterns against the dark concrete walls, the city resting politely beneath a soft, peaceful sky. "I'm an old woman," she said. "It was selfish of me to drive my car that day. I caused irreparable harm." She paused and wiped away a tear. "If sitting in this cell brings any comfort to the families who might feel harmed again if I went home, then I'll stay. I sit all day anyway. At my age, one place is just as good as another." "But you could have been free." "I could never be free after what I did," she said simply. "But maybe some of their families can be." I tried to smile, but I couldn't. Instead, I said the quiet part out loud. "You may be the only person I've ever known who actually deserved clemency." She nodded softly, her eyes wise, deeply human. Sometimes living with our failures is the only freedom we really have. "They won't forgive you," I said. "The families won't forgive you." "Mercy is never easy, because healing never is," she said. "And it's never deserved. That's why it's called mercy." We sat together in that small, dimly lit room, no numbers between us now, only silence, compassion, and gentle, shared understanding. The following morning, I submitted my resignation, the polite efficiency of my supervisor's reply masking quiet sorrow, careful acknowledgement, and gentle acceptance. I left my tablet, my data, my calculations, every comforting illusion of measurable humanity, and stepped into the uncertain streets, breathing deeply, free but fragile, unsure yet clear. Passing by the central plaza, I paused, noticing for the first time the faces around me, uncalculated, messy, and profoundly human. The city moved softly, unaware of my quiet revelation, carrying burdens numbers would never resolve, wounds arithmetic would never heal. I turned, choosing a new direction, walking forward into uncertainty, finally understanding that mercy required not measurement, but courage, the quiet, impossible bravery to forgive anyway, knowing fully what it cost.